What is going on, YouTube? It has been quite a while since I've made a video. We got really busy there for a while, and we're building out a new company, so that took up pretty much all my time in 2021. But we are back. We're back with a new car that I want to talk to you about. As you saw in the title, we are in a 2012 McLaren MP4-12C. Yes, everybody makes fun of the name because it literally sounds like you're talking about a DVD player, cassette player from the 80s or 90s. So why do I want to talk to you about the MP4-12C? Well, I just bought one and I'm super excited. I don't have the C8 anymore. I went ahead and sold the C8 a little while back in 2021. And I've had a bunch of other vehicles since, TRX truck, my Tesla P100D. Anyways, I really miss having, once you get that mid-engine bug and you drive a mid-engine car, it's really hard to get away from that. So I wanted to go to the next level. I've always been a huge fan of McLaren. If you're not familiar with McLaren, they have an incredible racing pedigree. You know, something like 1 in 4 F1 races has been won by McLaren, and 50% of the time that they've been in a race, they have finished on the podium, which is, you know, first through third. Pretty incredible. So their racing pedigree, Bruce McLaren, Ron Dennis, you know, and that's kind of where the name for this car, to give you a little history lesson, comes from. So McLaren MP4-12C. MP4 was a designation that they've had since the 80s for pretty much every F1 chassis for the cars themselves that they race. And the M obviously is for McLaren. The P4 is for Project 4, which was Ron Dennis' company when they joined and merged together back in the 80s sometime. So that's where the MP4 comes from, right? McLaren joining, you know, Project 4 to become McLaren Automotive. Anyways, and so they've been building, you know, cars for quite a long time, race cars. They've done amazing first in technology things like carbon fiber tub, going back to 81, which is pretty incredible that they built a carbon fiber tub that far back. Active aero, brake steer, which is kind of like torque steer, except a few of those cars actually had extra pedals that the driver could manipulate as he's driving, so he could, you know, brake the inside tire of the turn, which this car happens to have. Doesn't have the extra pedals, but it does have that amazing technology. So anyways, I've always been a big fan of McLaren. I love Ferrari, I love Lamborghini, but McLaren is just something about the car that did something for me, you know, that speaks to me. And I'm not a huge F1 fan. I do like watching the races every now and then, and you know, or parades, as some people like to joke about. You know, they have jokes for NASCAR, other people have jokes for F1 racing. But one thing you can deny is that it's truly the pinnacle of automotive racing in terms of technology, handling, aerodynamics, reliability, all of those things, right? So back in 2008, when McLaren Automotive started, you know, thinking about bringing a vehicle back, essentially the 12C or MP4-12C, it later on became just the 12C. They, you know, they wanted a car that is reliable, that can be used every single day, because that's always been one of the things with supercars, right? They've not been known to be reliable, and so McLaren wanted a car that you could daily drive, that you could take on a trip. Right now, I'm cruising like I'm in a Honda Civic. I mean, you wouldn't know it outside from what the car looks like, right? In terms of you driving, and it's just smooth, it's comfortable, it's easy to drive, right? And so, you know, McLaren wanted a car that you could daily drive, enjoy around town, not get beat up when you go over bumps, but at the same time, you could pull into any racetrack around the world and challenge pretty much anyone, you know, for the top spot. And that's what the MP4-12C is. It's truly one of the greatest forgotten supercars. It's the supercar that changed the way that manufacturers build supercars. Now, I will give credit, because many people do, to the Audi R8 as well. The Audi R8 was one of the first supercars that you could drive and enjoy. Now, Porsche guys are watching this video going, hey, we've been doing this for quite a long time, right? But, you know, Porsche in the 90s and the 80s, they weren't known for that, right? They were great automobiles, but definitely, you know, could definitely get you in a lot of trouble if you didn't know how to handle the motor being behind the rear axle, right? And it wasn't until the late 90s, early 2000s where, you know, Porsche really started putting an emphasis on safety, on road going, on build quality, interior, and all of those things, right? And, you know, Porsche purists will argue the time that happened, but you can look at the you know, at all the different styles and models of the 911 and others that when they changed and became sort of that super reliable, well-built, easygoing, really great road manners and supercar at the same time, right? But as much as I love Porsche, you know, I also wanted something that had the doors that go up, the Hydro doors like in the MP12, right? So as McLaren starts building this car, they want drivability, road going ability, trackability, I'm saying a bunch of ability, but also they wanted to be able to distinguish themselves from everything else. The cars that it was competing with, for example, it was the Gallardo, the Huracan, even today can compete with that car, but the 458 was definitely like where they set the sights, right, for what they wanted to do. And those are all great cars, but the 12C is on a league of its own, right? And let's talk about some of the things that make this car so special. For one is the carbon fiber monocoque, right? And even today, you have to spend upwards of $500,000-$600,000 to get a car that has a carbon fiber monocoque or carbon fiber anywhere, right? And not all McLarens, by the way, get that. This is a Super Series car, which is the 12C. It's the 650S, the 675 LT. I'm trying to think of what else is in that series. The 720 or the 765 LT, I'm sorry. Yeah, so those are all Super Series cars. But that carbon fiber monocoque is amazing because the chassis is so stiff, but it's so lightweight. And again, you have to spend insane amount of money to get that. The 458 doesn't have that. The Lamborghinis, neither one of them have that, right? Not the Gallardo, not the Huracan, unless you go with the race cars maybe. So that makes this car very unique and very special. Then you have the doors, the Hydro doors, right? And they go up in that McLaren, you know, very unique silhouette that you can see when you take a picture of them. It's a very unique profile, right? Because you got Lamborghini with the vertical doors, which is amazing, right? I mean, that's one of the things that Lamborghini is synonymous with them, that has been around for such a long time. But these doors are really special. They go up and out as well, and that kind of helps with egress. Although in this car, I don't know, the verdict might still be out on that, because as you approach the vehicle, your head is kind of right there where the glass is. If the glass or the window's open, it is a little bit easier to get in. So anyhow, that's pretty unique, the carbon fiber monocoque. Even in today's supercars, it's not something you're gonna get unless you're spending over $500,000 and above, more than $1 million in some instances, right? So the doors are the next thing that are super special in the car. You know, everywhere you go, when I'm pumping gas, no matter what I'm doing, that's something that people immediately will realize, hey, that, I don't know what that is, because a lot of people don't know what it is. That they know that it's pretty special, right? The way the car looks, the big intakes on the side, and the doors, it's just curb appeal. Everywhere you go, somebody's gonna, you know, notice, ask you about it. I've had people offer me money, offer me a gas tank, you know, to take pictures with the car, to sit in the car. It's pretty funny. I've never accepted a single dollar. You know, if I can share this vehicle with people and let them, you know, enjoy and take a picture and all those things, I'm happy to do it. But anyways, you got the carbon fiber monocoque, you've got the doors that are pretty special, but everything about this car is purposeful, and I love that, right? For example, the front, you know exactly where your tires are, because the humps on the fenders are the top of the wheel arches, right? And see, it sounds amazing as you get on it. The sound is just unbelievable. Hopefully you can hear. I don't know how much the GoPro will pick up of that. But it just, and I've got it in, everything is in normal mode right now. I don't even have the active panel turned on, but that's one of the things that it's just so amazing as you get in this car. There's a cop right there. Hopefully he didn't see me getting rowdy. I'm going the speed limit anyways. It's 55 on here and I'm going like 50, but they love to pick on these cars. So anyways, you got an amazing foundation in the carbon fiber monocoque, super lightweight, super stiff. You got the amazing doors that will definitely get people's attention anywhere you go and makes the car pretty unique. Then you've got the overall design of the vehicle. You sit very close in the middle next to each other. Actually, I don't know if you can see the seats, but you sit very far in the middle, right? If you've got another passenger in here and you're both are, you know, larger males or female, you're definitely going to be, you know, close to each other, but it's still comfortable. It's not uncomfortable at all. And I love that because you feel very centered in the car, very similar to an F1 race car where you're sitting in the middle. Not quite like a McLaren F1 from the 90s, but you know, it's pretty close. You're in the middle, and it gives you a really good sense of where you are in terms of the road and the vehicle. Another thing I love, you can't see the full 360, but it's all the windows. There's actually great visibility 360 all around. Like, I don't feel like in some vehicles that I've had before, I felt like I couldn't see rear towards the rear very well. You know, the visibility just isn't great, and I've had modern cars where visibility is worse than this car. So it's easy to drive, it's easy to see everywhere. You know exactly where your front wheels are at all the time, you know, and it's just an easygoing car, super easy to drive. But when you want to get on it and, you know, you want to have some fun, the car is ready, and there's multiple things you can do. So the technology, even for being a 10-year-old car, if you're watching this video right now, this car is about 10 years old, 2022. The technology is still pretty relevant. Now, I will talk about the things I don't like, but the suspension is incredible. Fully adjustable hydraulic suspension, again, very unique to this vehicle. Than compared to everything else, right? The suspension can be really soft. When you go over bumps, you barely feel anything. And it can also, when you go into track mode, because you've got two things that you can adjust. You've got the handling, which is the H on the active panel. Then you've got powertrain, which is your transmission and everything else as far as how the car responds, right? So you can be in normal mode, sport, or track. Those are three settings that you have. You can also enable the active aero. You know, that's another thing that's really unique about this car. You've got an active air brake. No other car in its class, and very few even today. We're talking hypercars. We're talking about the 720S, the 765 LT, P1, and some really expensive cars like a Bugatti and others that have active aero, active air brakes, you know, the Paganis and other ones. So it is really exclusive in terms of that, and it works incredibly well. When you're going really fast and you hit the brakes really hard and you've got the active aero turned on, you know, that wing comes up, the hydraulic rams push it up about 70% of the way, and then the aerodynamics does the rest. The air on the car is all being channeled towards the back of the vehicle. So when the air hits that spoiler at 70%, it forces it all the way up to be, you know, as aggressive as possible, and helps the vehicle slow down quite a bit. And that's, you know, very unique because you're using technology to activate it, but you're also using the natural wind that's flowing over the vehicle. That's really important because it'll help you slow down pretty quickly, but also it helps move the weight of the vehicle back over the rear wheels, which helps quite a bit in using all four tires to slow the vehicle down. Because you know what happens when you hit the brakes really hard, the weight is shifted towards the front, so the rear tires are kind of light. They don't do a lot of braking to begin with. But with this car, McLaren was able to dial in extra braking towards the rear and take advantage of using downforce to better, you know, grip the rear wheels. So again, 10-year-old car with the carbon fiber monocoque, with the Hydro, you know, flip-up doors. You've got active aero, you've got active handling, shifting. The transmission is incredible in this vehicle. It's easy to drive, you know, when you're going bumper to bumper traffic. And that's one of the things, if you own or have driven a Lamborghini before, and some of the other cars that use a single clutch, they're not that fun to drive in traffic. When you're in bumper to bumper traffic, it's just not that fun, because that single clutch, you know, it's not designed. It's great for around a track. It's great when you're moving already, but it's not designed to be in just stop and go traffic, right? And this is where this is awesome with the dual clutch transmission. But this is SSG as well, which stands for sequential shift gear, I believe. I have to look it up to make sure I got that right. But what that does too is it has a precog system on the paddles that you can pull slightly and ask for the next gear. So the gears are seamless, right? Seamless shift gear, SSG, on top of the dual clutch transmission. And for 10-year-old technology, man, I'm telling you, it is absolutely amazing how fast and how quick the shifts can. And on downshift is super fast already. So again, it'll keep up with my C8, any of the new modern dual clutch transmissions that I've had. And the C8 was crazy good dual clutch transmission, and on the C8 Corvette. So again, for being 10 years old, way ahead of you know, of anything even today by today's standards. The other really cool thing that I love about the McLaren paddle shifts, unlike some other vehicles that have paddles, my C8 included, I can upshift and downshift with one hand, which is really great if you're, you know, sipping from your drink. If you're filming something, which you shouldn't do when you're driving, this is mounted on the windshield. It's really awesome to be able to do one-handed shifting. Or if you have even a disability, something that might prevent you from being able to leverage both hands to shift up and down, it's a rocker paddle shift system, so it'll go down or up from either side. That is an amazing, amazing feature, because I can one-hand drive this thing in manual when you put it in full manual mode, which is really awesome. So again, all things to me that you know, made this car very unique, especially compared against other supercars of that era, like the 458, like a Gallardo, you know. And again, it competes with modern supercars like a 720S. Obviously not as fast as a 720S, but a lot of similar technology, you know, with the Huracan today, any of the newer Ferraris. Again, you know, it won't be able to keep up with some of these newer cars, but it is still crazy fast. This car ran 10-second quarter mile. Most of what I've seen on YouTube for people that have drag races, I haven't had a chance to take mine out yet. Hopefully in the summer. It's really cold right now, but I'm hoping in the summer I'll get a chance to take it out and run this thing. But a lot of them have run in the mid-10s. That's incredible for a stock 10-year-old car, you know, factory on street tires, to be able to turn 10s on the quarter mile. On my C8, for example, which obviously has a lot less power, and I know the C06 will be much faster, I was running 11s, high 11s, you know, and it felt pretty fast to me. But this thing can turn 10, 0 to 60, anywhere from 2.9 to 3.1. You know, it's very lightweight too. They weigh about 3,000 to 3,160, depending on the specs and some of the lightweight options that you could add to this vehicle. For example, this one has the super light wheels on here, which are about 23 pounds lighter, if I remember correctly, somewhere around there. So, you know, all around, I think it's like 80 pounds lighter. You know, I think that's what I read on the manual. But anyways, you can get titanium bolts. You can get a lot of carbon fiber bits for these, and some are really well optioned out. The sticker price on this back then, most of these were configured to about 280,000 US dollars, right? Which is a lot, even by today's standards. And some of the highly optioned ones with a lot of carbon fiber bits were in the, you know, 310, 3 something range. So you can find some really nice ones with this. So again, amazing technology. Now, what's the one thing I don't like about this car? It's definitely the radio, as expected. Same thing with the 458, same thing with pretty much all the cars of that era. They have horrific, you know, Gen 1, Gen 2 navigation systems. The only good thing about this one, mine was upgraded to the Iris 2. So they all came with Iris 1, which is utter garbage. I mean, Iris 2 is not that far behind, but at least I can do Bluetooth streaming, and it's got a USB plug, so you can at least, you know, stream your whatever your favorite Android, you know, music or Apple Music or any other streaming service that you prefer. Obviously, it's got a radio. It does have XM radio if I wanted to turn that on as an option. I'm gonna turn around over here. But you know, it's just not a great sound system. Now this one had the upgraded Meridian speakers processing unit sound system, and it's not horrible, but again, you know, by modern standards, it definitely lacks, you know, lacks punch, it is loud, but doesn't have a lot of bass. But maybe I'll add a little subwoofer. There's not a lot of rooms to do anything. Now, speaking of cargo, it does have a nice shelf. You can't put really heavy stuff back here, but like your backpack, camera gear, other things can definitely go back there. And it does have a really large frunk, which is nice, right? Oh, I love that sound. And again, I mean, it builds speed incredibly fast. You know, that's the one thing. McLaren's launch control system, and again, this is a 10-year-old version. In the 650S it got better, the 675LT even better because they introduced a rolling burnout, and then the 720s, of course, you guys know how crazy fast those are. 570s, all of those, they've gotten better. But to me, this is truly one of the greatest forgotten supercars. The interior is beautiful. Mine's got the Harissa red full leather interior. It's got power seats, heated seats. That was an option, by the way, but I think most people got that. You know, it looks amazing. Curve appeal is amazing. There are some concerns in terms of reliability for these, and maybe I'll make some more videos later down the road talking about some of those things. But the more common things are, you know, before you buy one, definitely buy one that has mileage. Actually, you don't want one unless you're ready to spend a bunch of money, or you're gonna buy a McLaren warranty, which is about $3,500 a year to $5,000. Now, McLaren's gonna stop offering a warranty on these, I believe, in 2024. So you've got about 2 years where you can still buy a factory warranty. Also, try to buy from a McLaren dealer if you can. Don't quote me on this, but I believe any car sold from McLaren that is a McLaren will get a 1-year, 12,000 mile warranty. I don't know if that's included or at a discounted price, but again, you can always add the extended service on these. Now, in terms of reliability, they've been pretty solid, knock on wood, in terms of, you know, the motor. There's been a few here and there that have, you know, grenaded themselves, but that happens with every car. If you're on the Corvette forums, for example, brand new C8s, you know, a bunch of other new cars, the Mustangs, others, all cars have issues, and it just, unfortunately, there's going to be a percentage with every new car and old cars where, you know, something's going to go wrong. But most of the stuff is stuff you can DIY yourself. If you're a DIY kind of person, you know, a lot of the DIY community is growing quite a bit on this vehicle. You know, most people that own a 12C are doing their oil changes because you save so much money. You know, the screens on the doors, the AC controls are on the doors on each side, which is really funky. They did away with that in the newer vehicles. They just put a cover over these and moved the AC control unit into the Iris system where you can control it. That's where it is now, so there's no AC controls. But in these cars, these little windows will go bad, and they're like $1,500 to $2,000 each. There are a few companies out there like EMF Auto. Check those guys out on YouTube. They're doing a lot of DIY stuff. They work on these cars. They'll travel anywhere in the country to work on them, but they can also source parts a lot cheaper than the dealer. And I believe they charge $400 for these screens, which are upgraded, new, and better, right? So there's soft close doors you can add to these using Tesla parts, you know, which is really cool, because that's one of the things that these cars are known for. The doors sometimes don't align very well. McLaren can fix them for you. I don't know what they charge, but sometimes, you know, with age and time, they get misaligned and you have to slam them pretty hard, especially the passenger side in the US at least. I'm not sure in Europe and other places where you have right-hand drive McLarens if it's still the same door. But you can get that realigned or get soft close doors where you just close it gently and it pulls it in for you. So the screens. You've got the biggest job on these, you know, right now is the suspension, the hydraulic actuators or accumulators. I forget what they're called. Or I forget what they're called, but those tend to go bad. McLaren has basically said those are consumable parts, and that's a pretty pricey job. However, there's a bunch of DIY videos on doing it yourself, and I think you can get all 4 of them, because you want to do at least 2 at a time. Everybody recommends that you just do all 4. It is a DIY job, will take you a couple of hours to do, and you can do that yourself for under $1,000. If you do it with McLaren, it'll be several $1,000s, right? But again, it's a consumable part. You can replace that every so many years. When I bought this car, you know, make sure you get a PPI, right? Pre-purchase inspection done from a trusted McLaren and EMF Auto that I mentioned. Those guys offer them. There's a couple other companies that do it. A McLaren dealer can do it themselves. It's worth to pay that $200, $300, $500, depending on where they have to travel to, depending on what all has to be done for them to do that job, to inspect the car. But it is absolutely an amazing vehicle, right? You know, a lot of the other things that go wrong, some electronic stuff, you know, so you're gonna pay because they are limited. In the US, I believe in 2012 there were only 500 and some change brought to the US in 2012, so there's not a lot of them, and overall I think 4,000 were made throughout the whole run of the 12C worldwide, and I think about 1,600 made it to the US. I've owned Viper before, and I can tell you the Viper has very low production numbers, 30,000 and some change through its entire production run of 20 something years, and those are pretty low numbers. So I'm used to it being hard to find parts. You know, that was something I had to do with the Viper. I had to put parts from the truck sometimes, from the Dakota, and cross-reference the parts because the dealers didn't have anything in stock. You can check out some of those videos that I have on the Viper from before. So to me, that wasn't anything new, but do expect if you buy one of these that that's something that will happen, where it'll be hard to find parts. It'll be expensive when you do find them, even used. More than likely, you're gonna have to go with used parts, unless it's a consumable part where you don't wanna put a used one on the vehicle again. But overall, I love the car. It brings an enormous smile. It drives like nothing I've ever owned before, and I've had many sports cars and maybe supercars, you know, or at least people consider them that, and I can tell you there is nothing like this vehicle. You know, everything about McLaren fascinates me, about Ron Dennis, the last McLaren boss. From the way he built the technology center, the McLaren Technology Center, where, you know, there's a funny story where it was like 100 meters is what the architects had done, right? But if they went with 100 meters, the tiles on the floor would have had to have been cut in the middle, so he went with 99 instead, so that all the tiles could be square. And knowing that Ron was that kind of a perfectionist, you know, he cared about every single little detail. All that went into this vehicle, you know, that sort of, from the foundation that Bruce built to what Ron continued to do, and I just, it comes out everywhere in the car, because everything in the car has a purpose, right? There's nothing here for show. There's nothing here to appease a marketing team or a sales team. Everything here is purpose built, and even for being a 10-year-old car, the miles per gallon are incredible. The performance, even by today's standards, I've taken it on a few back roads, and I was blown away at how this thing carves up the road with the technology that it has. Even that it's 10 years old, you have brake steer, and it takes a little while to get used to. As you start to turn, it brakes the inside tire so that you can, you know, make the turn faster, right? So you can, with the brakes, I've got the carbon, which a lot of them did. Only a few of them had the steel brakes are actually more rare than the carbon ceramic brakes on this vehicle. So most of the 12Cs will have the 15.6-inch 6-piston rotors in the front and 15-inch in the rear with 4-piston calipers in the back. So you've got 6-piston caliper up front with 15.6-inch rotor, 15 in the back with 4-piston calipers in the back. The brakes are absolutely insane. That's one thing you're gonna have to get used to. The carbon ceramic brakes, when they're cold, they don't have a lot of modulation. They grab, they bite really hard. So if you've got somebody in the car, warn them. I've gotten somewhat used to it. The pedal box is also incredible. The pedals are so close to each other. You know, I can drive this car, like I said, 1 foot, no problem. And for heel and toe and any other things you want to do, I mean, it is a true race car. The steering wheel, you know, I believe was designed after Hamilton, Lewis Hamilton, if I remember correctly. Maybe a few of the F1 drivers at the time. He's no longer with McLaren, as you know. But, you know, everything in the car was designed with purpose to go racing, to go fast, to stop fast, to go through the turns really fast. And even for 10 years old, it's incredible. And I'm telling you right now, the prices on everything, as you guys know right now, is surging to levels we've never seen before. I was looking at Huracans, you know, in the 160s a year ago. They're now over 200 all day long, almost 300, almost more than what a new one was if you got a base model one. The 650S has gone up by $30,000-$40,000. I'm seeing the same cars get relisted for 30-40 grand more than they were last year. I don't know how long this is gonna last, but I truly believe this is one of the greatest McLarens, greatest supercars ever built. And in the next 5 years, this car will be double what it is today, because people are starting to realize, you know, this tends to happen with every manufacturer. I think my battery is dying, so I'll have to make another video. But thanks for watching. Stay tuned. I'll bring more 12C content out if you guys are interested. See ya.